Great. Let's create our very first search component. So we want to build basically some kind of user interface that will allow us to type in maybe the title of a movie, press a button, and it'll go fetch that in the remote data server and then render the results. Okay? So we need some logic and we need some user interface. So the user interface will be implemented as HTML and the logic will be implemented in TypeScript. Together, they make a component. Right? So let's create a brand new component. We can use ng. ng is the Angular command line interface that we installed earlier with npm. G stands for generate, and C stands for component. You can spell it out, the whole thing. I'm lazy, so I use the abbreviation. So let's copy that. And from the command line, I'm going to paste that in there. It's going to create a component called movie-search. And it'll create 4 things. One is the TypeScript side. This is where you put your logic, your object-oriented technology, all event handlers, any control mechanism will be in here. All data access would be in the TypeScript side. HTML is, as you suspect, that's where you put your user interface. We're not going to be also using the other 2. This is how to be able to style this particular component. We're not going to do that. And this is where you would put all tests, unit tests, you would put it in the specification file. So we're only going to use these 2 files. Let's see. Our IDE should see now our brand new component. There it is. We can open it up. There it is. There's nothing in there. We just have a constructor. It's just a class. It implements a particular interface. So that the framework can call this component to initialize itself, and it has this HTML associated with it. And right now, the only thing that it says is movie search works. So let's replace that with saying h1 search component. Okay. All right. So how do we render it? How do we view that? Well, we did before, didn't we? In the app component. In the app component, we had this welcome to CS5200, yes? Instead, we can use this brand new component we just created. Right? So this is the HTML. This is the TypeScript. And the TypeScript declares what HTML gets rendered and also declares a brand new tag. This is the name of the tag that triggers this component. I can use that, and in my app component, instead of having this welcome to CS5200, maybe we can render saying welcome to OMDB API prototype. Right? So that should render. There it is. It's rendering correctly. And we're going to put our brand new app search. There it is, our search component. See that? That's what we render in our other HTML. Yes? Everybody okay? Everybody good? All right. I don't like this content being flushed on the left-hand side, so I'm gonna fix that a little bit. I'm just gonna add a little bit of padding all around. I'm just gonna put a div around this. And I'm going to use a styling that is provided by the Bootstrap library. It's called container fluid. The only thing that it does, notice that it just give it a little nudge on the left-hand side, right? So it's not stuck to the flush to the left-hand side. All right. All right. So let's put in the search component something that we can interact with. Let's do that. All right, the search interface. There we go. Let's copy that. And let's paste that in our app component in here. Let's go in there, in our HTML. So we're going to replace that, and we're going to put there search movies. And then we're going to have a div with an input field, and then a button. So basically, we have an input field and a button that we can presumably type in the name of the movie that we're looking for, and a button that we can start the search. If we look at the rendering, that's how it renders. search movies, an input field, and a button. Everybody good? All right, excellent. So let's continue. Let's see. Right, we added a container fluid. We did that already. Add movie search. We did that already, and that's how it renders. Now, to be able to work with forms like input fields and everything, that's not installed by default in Angular. I'm not sure why. It's such a common thing that you would interact with forms, right? You'd think that it would be installed by default. It's not. So we need to explicitly install it in the configuration file, right? Remember where we declare our client? We are also going to import the forms module, which I'm not sure why it's not already installed. There it is. So we just imported it. That's all we need to do to be able to work with forms. In our case, we do have a form. We have an input field and a button, right? All right. So let's go back to our search component. We have our input field, and we have our button. So let's see. We're going to first see if we can maybe click this button and somehow know about it, right? That we can handle that event. So that's easy. We can on the button we can associate a click event and say that if I click it, you're going to call the function called search, which doesn't exist yet. Where is that search? It's going to live on the TypeScript side of this. So these two guys work together. The HTML renders and the TypeScript handles events. Yes, and it does all the logic and fetches data and manipulates, massages the data. So we're going to have here search. Search. It's a function. And right now, the only thing that's going to do is going to do an alert searching. That's all it's going to do. All right, just to make sure that it works. Let's go back. So if we click on search, it brings up searching. Yeah, so that's working. Right, we have that working. Very good. We can even pass a piece of data. We can say search for Batman. So here I could presumably receive a title. And so this could be maybe searching for, and then the title. Let's see if we do a search. Indeed, it says searching for Batman. So we can pass data from the HTML side. We can pass data over to the TypeScript side. So we can talk to one another, right? So the HTML side can talk to the TypeScript side. How about if I type something here? I would like to have the title here, right? So let's do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to declare a local variable called title, or keyword, maybe keyword. And initially we're going to initialize it to be empty string. And what we're going to do is that we want to bind that keyword. We're going to bind it to that input field so that whatever I type in that input field, I want to fetch it. I want to grab a hold of it. So to tie it, to bind it, we use ng model. There it is, ng model. ng model with curly brackets and parentheses. What these brackets and parentheses mean is the direction in which the data flows. It's either from the TypeScript comes to the HTML, or does the HTML send over to the TypeScript, or is it both ways? In this case, the square and the curly means that it's both ways. It's doubly bound. And I'm binding it to a variable called keyword. Notice that it sees it. It says, ooh, you have a keyword variable in my component. I want to bind it there. Very good. So right now it's bound. Anywhere where this variable appears, folks will know that it's whatever the value of this input field. So for instance, if I reference it, say here, down here, right, I can reference it in curly brackets. If I type, notice that it renders anywhere where it's mentioned, and I can give it some styling perhaps. So when I type it, it renders anywhere it is. Anybody who's listening to that variable will be notified if that variable ever changes, which it is right now. So we don't want that, though. What we do want to do is pass it along. Right here, we're going to pass it along, keyword. Pass it to search, right? So that if I say Batman, and I say search, notice that it says searching for Batman. Or if I'm searching for Superman, notice that it says searching for Superman. So I am able to pass in the data over to the component. Excellent. All right, so we have it bound. Now we have to actually do the search. Right, so let's do that. Let's do that next. Excellent. Let's